Hello everyone, welcome to my 11.1 Liberation of Undermine Mistweaver Healing Guide. In this video, I'm going to be explaining the Mistweaver talents that I'm running, how I'm healing in the rotation, and what stats you should be going for, certain WeakAuras, and just whatever it is I feel is needed that all beginners should be using if they are playing Mistweaver. Now this video is coming out a week after the raid has been published, but the reason being is because I wanted to actually test this stuff myself to see how it works. And so far, after trying to pump the healing meters, I'd say Mistweaver is definitely S tier when it comes to rating. Now I won't be going over the specifics on how each ability works into detail, whereas if you do have questions about that, and you're completely new to Mistweaver, I'd highly recommend go watching my original 11.1 Mistweaver guide, which will be linked in the description, or you can just go find the video on my channel. But if you're already aware of the abilities, you want to know what the raid talent build is, and how it's actually played, then this video is for you. And I'll even show you some examples from my personal guild raid. Now without further ado, let's get into the talents. Alright, now to start off, we're going to be playing with Yulon and Raid. Reason being is because it just does more healing in general, and also Chi-Ji is a little bit more complex for beginner Mistweavers. We are also playing Conduit of Celestials, and this ability, Celestial Conduit, is a massive cooldown that you can use either assigned or just whenever everybody takes a lot of damage. Now basically, just to sum it up, a few key changes from Raid build to Mythic Plus build is we are running Conduit of the Celestials, which means we have Celestial Conduit, which is another ability that we put on our bars. We are also going to be playing with Strength of the Black Ox, which is a massive passive that will help us do a lot more healing, and we are playing with Yulon. So those are the three main core changes that will change your gameplay pretty drastically. And the import code for my specific talents will be linked in the description below. Okay, so your entire rotation is going to revolve around Renewing Mist and Rushing Wind Kick. Now with the talent Pool of Mist, this now means that we have 3 charges of Renewing Mist, and Rising Sun Kick reduces the cooldown of it by 1 second, and Renewing Mist also reduces the cooldown of Rising Sun Kick. Now we're also playing Rushing Wind Kick, which replaces Rising Sun Kick. So basically what this means is these two abilities you want to keep on cooldown. You never want to let these stay up. That is the main primary rotation of the raid healing. It is one of the easiest rotations you will ever play. You want to make sure Renewing Mist never hits 3 stacks, and you always want to make sure this is on cooldown. Now, something to keep in mind is every time you press Renewing Mist, it reduces the cooldown of Rushing Wind Kick and vice versa. So if I press Rushing Wind Kick, it'll reduce the cooldown on Renewing Mist. So you just want to make sure these are always on cooldown at all times. Outside of this, there obviously are more buttons. We have Vivify. Now Vivify will heal obviously your main target, whoever it is that you're focusing, but any target with Renewing Mist buff on them, Vivify also heals them. So Vivify transforms from a single target heal into an AoE heal through this. Now, Thunder Focus T. This ability actually kind of matters on what you empower with in Raid. Now, there are 2 things that you'll want to empower this with. Outside of cooldowns, you're going to want to power Thunder Focus T with Enveloping Mist. Now, if you are right before your Yulon, you're going to want to empower your Renewing Mist, and I'll explain why now. We are spec'd into the talent Secret Infusion, which means that we get 15% of a stat depending on which ability we use. So if we are outside of cooldowns and we're not preparing to pop Yulon, then we're going to pop Thunder Focus T and Enveloping Mist, which makes an instant cooldown. You get to apply your dots, you get to apply everything that you need, and it'll increase your crit by 15% with Secret Infusion, and it'll spread out your insurance buff, which comes from our tier set. So basically, you want to make sure that you keep these 3 abilities on cooldown. The only time you will hold Thunder Focus T is if you know you are about to press Yulon, and I'll get into how Yulon works in just a second. But other than that, you'll keep these on cooldown, you will press Vivify. Now, we do have an ability called Strength of the Black Ox, which means that after casting Vivify, there's a chance that your Enveloping Mist will apply a shield to, I think it's 5 people around you. Let me just double check. Yeah, it'll apply a shield, an absorb shield to 5 people, and its cast time is reduced by 50%, which means that it's a big heal. And if you look at healing done overall, Enveloping Mist, or the shield from Enveloping Mist, is going to be a massive part of it. So the core rotation is going to be keeping both of these abilities on cooldown, pressing Vivify, and then using Enveloping Mist whenever it procs. And then Thunder Focus T, obviously whenever needed. Now for going into Yulon, this is your biggest ability and you can ramp up insane amounts with this. So you want to make sure, once again, that these are on cooldown. You want to have 1 charge of Renewing Mist. You'll use your Thunder Focus T, then you'll use Renewing Mist. The reason being is because it'll give you Secret Infusion, but with Renewing Mist, it gives you the haste buff. So you'll get 15% haste, which will allow you to ramp up. Once you then have Secret Infusion haste buff, you'll press Yulon, and then you will press 3 to 4 Enveloping Mist on your raid, depending on how large the raid is. And then you will press Vivify, which will then give you another Enveloping Mist proc, which will just make you do insane amounts of healing. That's also given that both Renewing Mist and Rushing Wind Kick are on cooldown, applying Renewing Mist to your entire raid group. Now, if you have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, don't worry because I am going to show you footage in just a second. Now, these are our 3 other big cooldowns which are important. We have Restoral, which is on a 3-minute cooldown. You'll want to use this either A, when everyone's taking life-threatening damage, or if you're assigned to it, depending on if you're actually a coordinated raid or not. 3-minute cooldown, big AoE heals. Celestial Conduit is on a 1.5-minute cooldown, and same thing as Restoral. Just kind of use it whenever everyone's taking a lot of damage, or it is assigned to you for a specific mechanic. Life Cocoon, save it for when someone's about to die from a mechanic, or they're just standing in something that they shouldn't be standing in. Okay, now I'm going to show you guys how the rotation and the footage actually works in a raid environment. Okay, now here's the footage from our normal raid last night from Liberation of Undermine, and to start off, before we even start, I pressed Thunder Focus T to put it on cooldown, and I'm going to spin its proc on Renewing Mist. Reason being is so I get the haste buff, because I'm about to press Yulon, as you can see. Now, what happens is, after I get out some Renewing Mist, Rushing Wind Kick, I press Yulon, and I'm going to spread the Enveloping Mist buff to everybody, and then I'm going to spam Vivify. So it's going to look something like this. So Renewing Mist, Rushing Wind Kick, get out those Renewing Mists. Right there, as you guys can see, this Dragon buff, anytime I press Yulon and then I press Enveloping Mist, it will apply it to 5 players, which increases their healing received by 10%, which is already a massive buff to begin with. And as you can see, this WeakAura right here that has 29 seconds on it, anytime I see this ability, I know that means I need to press Enveloping Mist, because as you can see, it gives everybody this buff right here, which once again shields them, because I know they're going to take a lot of damage, so I'm popping all my cooldowns here, and it does insane amounts of healing. Now, after Yulon is over, I'm going back to maintenance healing, keeping Renewing Mist on cooldown and Rushing Wind Kick. So I'm getting out some Vivifies, Conduit of the Celestials, now, something to consider is outside of your Yulon, you technically should be using your Thunder Focus T on Enveloping Mist. However, I still prefer to use on Renewing Mist just because I like the haste buff that it gets from it. But what everyone is saying is that you should be using it on Enveloping Mist. As you can see, the healing that Mistweaver is doing is absolutely insane. Once again, just keeping Enveloping Mist on cooldown whenever it procs. Keeping my Rushing Wind Kick Enveloping Mist on everybody possible. You also want to make sure Mana Tea does not hit 20 stacks, so use it pretty much whenever you're able to. And in a raid build, it actually does healing, so you want to kind of aim it at the group. So once again, I'm just keeping both Renewing Mist and Rushing Wind Kick on cooldown, and then using Enveloping Mist anytime it gets the buff. Now here's the thing, in order to get the proc with Enveloping Mist, you have to make sure that you just spam Vivify. But you also don't want to drain your mana, so don't waste it too much if you don't have to. You mainly want to focus on your maintenance healing through Renewing Mist and Rushing Wind Kick. And so I'm saving Conduit of the Celestials for whenever we're going to take a lot of damage. Now keep in mind as well, after your cooldowns and you're healing for a lot, you're going to get a lot of charges of Mana Tea back, so you just want to make sure you're just keeping an eye on it, just don't let it get to 20 stacks. And it's the same exact thing, keeping Renewing Mist and keeping Rushing Wind Kick on cooldown. Also, regarding stats and consumables, I use Algari Mana Oil, Flask of Tempered Swiftness, and Belladar's Bounty for my default consumables. Now for stats, you're going to want to be targeting primarily Haste and Crit, with Mastery being in 3rd place, and Versatility being in 4th place. Now once again, these are all the WeakAuras that I use for Mistweaver to keep up with. However, the main ones that you want to focus on in raid are going to be this buff right here, which is your Secret Infusion, which is the buff that you get from Thunder Focus T. There's this buff right here, which is what you get from casting Vivify, which then buffs your Enveloping Mist. And then also up here, I have it tracking my Rushing Wind Kick, Renewing Mist, the Enveloping Mist buff, and my Thunder Focus T. And in raid, we're not playing Master of Harmony, so you don't even have to worry about your Vitality bar, which in my opinion makes Mistweaver raid healing more easy than the Mythic Plus build. And the link to all my WeakAuras will be in the description below. And once again, as I say every video, if you have any questions about how the spec works, anything that I didn't go over in the video that you still have a question about, anything about WeakAuras, so on and so forth, feel free to ask me in the comments down below. And I wanted to make this video as simple and straightforward as possible, so hopefully I succeeded in that. And once again, I appreciate you for being here. You guys have a nice day. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the Undermine.